I'm back to finally end these Nightmare on Elm Street re-reviews that have not been daily like they were originally planned. There are 2 films left to review, so I'm just gonna do them both here in one review. The reason they only get one video is because neither of them are part of the original series. Freddy vs. Jason was a spin-off / crossover with Friday the 13th, and the 2010 remake is, well, a remake. So let's crack into it. I'll try not to make the video too long and not go into massive detail about the films like I did with most of the other videos, especially since I've said pretty much all that needs to be said about the remake. So let's start off with Freddy vs. Jason. This is the final film that Robert Englund plays Freddy in, and it's kind of a thank you to the fans for watching the films over the years. It's also the final Jason movie before the 2009 reboot. So what did I think about the film? I really liked it. I'm sure you already know I loved the Nightmare on Elm Street movies, but I also loved the Friday the 13th series. Those movies have all the elements that a good slasher should have. They're fun, cheesy, and full of incredibly memorable death scenes. However, I prefer the Nightmare movies, so that kind of makes me very biased when it comes to this movie, similar to how I love the Alien movies more than the Predator movies, and so I'll root for the Alien in the Alien vs Predator movies. I was excited to see Robert Englund play Freddy one final time. The film came to be after New Line Cinema took over the Friday the 13th films. It had been stuck in development hell since the mid-80s. Then, they decided they were going to make it in the 90s, but decided to wait instead because New Nightmare was being made at the time. They then made another Friday the 13th film to hold fans over and to reintroduce Jason to a newer audience. The film was a complete abomination, but that's a different movie for a different review. And then of course, because the film was still taking its time, they made Jason X, which is, meh. Anyway, at the end of Jason Goes to Hell, we see Freddy's glove pull Jason's mask into the ground. Everyone then got excited and was really looking forward to the crossover. However, it didn't actually happen for another 10 years. Fans were incredibly mixed with the final film. Freddy essentially starts the movie off by saying that he survived everything people threw at him throughout the series. We also see his original death where the parents of Elm Street get their revenge on him. Freddy says that over the years, people have stopped being scared by Freddy, and so he can no longer kill people, since fear is what powers him. So he decides he needs to get someone just as deadly as him to start killing people on the street of Elm Street, so he can make people blame it on Freddy. Freddy pretends to be Jason's mother and tells him to kill the kids of Elm Street because they're being bad. So that's exactly what he does. The film mainly follows a group of teenagers. After one of their friends die, they start to find out more and more about Freddy. This creates a lot of fear, and once Freddy has enough power, he tries to kill a drunken girl who passes out at a party. However, just before he kills her, Jason kills her in the real world. Freddy gets pissed off, and from there on out, Freddy ends up trying to get revenge on him. The film shows that when Freddy and Jason are in the dream world, Freddy is stronger because that's his home environment, and Jason is stronger in the real world for the exact same reason. There are only really 2 big fights in the whole movie, one in the dream world and one in the real world. I do think it would have been better if there were multiple fights throughout the movie. The other characters are surprisingly likable, and you kind of grow attached to them all the way until they blow up Freddy and Jason while they're fighting, which was a bit annoying. I mean, what's the point? This is supposed to be Freddy vs. Jason. We want to see one of them win. We don't want to see someone come in and break them up. Freddy goes to kill the 2 remaining teenagers, and then Jason jumps up, stabs Freddy with his own glove, and then falls back into the lake. Freddy was holding Jason's machete, which he then drops. One of the teenagers grabs it and then chops off Freddy's head while spouting probably one of the worst one-liners in the whole series.
Welcome to my world, bitch!
There's nothing particularly bad about the line, it's simply the delivery. It's just painfully bad. And then, right at the end of the film, we see Jason emerge holding Freddy's decapitated head, and he then winks at the camera. This ending leaves the film open to discussion. A lot of people say that Freddy wins, and a lot of people say Jason wins. Some people even say that it was a tie. The problem with a film like this is that fans are always going to be pissed off if their least favourite of the 2 characters win. So you have to keep fans happy and leave the movie up to interpretation. I honestly think neither of them won. Sure, Jason probably won because he turns Freddy into just a decapitated head, but Freddy still survives it. Technically, no one wins until someone dies. There are many things I don't like about this movie. The biggest problem I have is how much they fuck up Jason's backstory. They make him afraid of water. How fucking stupid. Jason has willingly gone underwater in the other movies multiple times. At the end, you see him underwater. So why is it that he randomly gets scared halfway through? In the dream fight, you see a load of water coming down and Jason essentially stops by it. Freddy then makes water fall from the ceiling and it turns Jason into a crying little boy. Fuck you. How could you take one of the most awesome and deadly serial killers in horror history and turn him into an emotional little boy? Another thing I didn't like about the film was the colour patterns. When we are in the real world, the colours are normal, except for when Freddy and Jason are fighting, then it gets extremely blue, so blue that Freddy's skin looks blue. In the dream world, everything is red, so it makes Jason's mask red. I wish they could have kept the colour normal, or at least toned it down a little. It looks atrocious and makes it look way too stylized. Anyway, I really did enjoy it, and it's a must-see for fans of either of the films. I give Freddy vs. Jason a B-. Now, the 2010 remake. Now, sometimes with a remake, they can be surprisingly good, like the remake of Dawn of the Dead, but other times they can be cash-grabbing, atrocious CGI abominations that are just being made to get old fans and younger generations to flock into the cinemas. The remake for Nightmare on Elm Street is the latter of the two. I really do not want to waste a lot of time with this remake. If you want to see me talk incredibly in depth about the movie, go watch my Hollywood Beatdown review of it. I relentlessly make fun of the movie and get angry at the stupidest parts of it for about 45 minutes. I do actually like parts of the movie though. Jackie Earle Haley is literally the perfect choice for Freddy. He doesn't outdo Robert Englund, but he does a damn good job portraying the role. However, his voice is way too reminiscent of Christian Bale's Batman, or even simply his voice as Rorschach in Watchmen. Also, the makeup is terrible and looks like melted cheese. They also use CGI on his face and it ends up making him look incredibly artificial and fake. There are scenes taken from the original, which I do understand, but then there are random one-liners from some of the sequels which just don't need to be said. The plot is basically the same as the original, but updated for a newer audience. One thing that really pissed me off was that all the characters' first and last names have been changed, except for Nancy, who keeps her first name. This instantly makes me want to compare her to Heather Langenkamp's Nancy, and when I do, the original is always going to win. In this film, instead of saying that Freddy was a child killer and implying that he molested them as well, it just flat out says that he was a child molester. I have to say though, the scenes showing off Freddy's backstory up until his death were actually really good. The writers of the remake wanted to make Freddy scarier than he was in the original film. How do you do that? Well, that's easy. Just put in tons of what's in every modern horror movie. A load of jump scares. In the original, when there was a jump scare, it made sense because no one was expecting it. Due to the fact that you were never sure what was real and what was a dream, it really terrified you when all of a sudden Freddy was there. Due to the pacing and atmosphere of the film, the jump scares were handled much better. In this film, they just throw them in randomly. A lot of them literally come out of nowhere and are only there to wake up the people who've probably fallen asleep from the dullness of the rest of the film. The writing is atrocious and some of the dialogue remains some of the dullest dialogue I've ever seen in a movie. The acting is really bad. This is a film that stars a bunch of really talented actors and 99% of them give terrible performances. Sadly, I'd have to blame the director Samuel Bayer for the reason why this film isn't very good. He previously had only directed music videos, directing music videos such as Stay Together for the Kids by Blink-182, multiple Green Day videos, Coma White by Marilyn Manson, and most famously Smells Like Teen Spirit by Nirvana. He still works as a music video director to this day, and I think that is where he should stay. He directs some really fantastic music videos. However, movies, well, the fact he's only directed one probably tells you how good a movie director he is. I really wanted to like this movie due to the fact that I love the original series, but it was just a mess start to finish. I know a lot of people won't be shocked by this, but this is one of the worst movies I've ever seen. It's atrocious. Although it isn't Troll 2 or Exorcist 2 bad, it's still pretty bad. I give the remake of A Nightmare on Elm Street a G-. Okay, now the series is finally over, it's time for me to rank the films from worst to best. Number 9 and worst in the series is the 2010 remake. Number 8, Dream Child. Number 7, Freddy's Dead: The Final Nightmare. Number 6, Freddy's Revenge. Number 5, Dream Master. Number 4, Freddy vs. Jason. Number 3, Dream Warriors. Number 2, Wes Craven's New Nightmare. And number 1 and the best in this series is the original Nightmare on Elm Street. I want to apologise for the massive lack of reviews so far this year. I've just been incredibly busy working on other stuff that I don't really have much time to work on YouTube videos at the moment. When I do, I usually work on bigger things that I'm putting off until I have more time. I have multiple episodes of channel changes that are ready to be made, however I just don't have the time to do them. There's also other things that I'm slowly editing and I just don't have much time to even do them. Next month I'm going to be doing a massive overload of reviews. Last year I did horror season where I reviewed a horror movie every single day. Well, I'm going to do the same thing this year. However, this time I'm going to try and review most of the horror series that people have requested me to do. I'll also be doing my Halloween re-reviews as well as at least one Hollywood beatdown. I originally had something different planned this year, but I think this is a much better thing to do and it will be a great way to shorten the massive list of requests I currently have. I was originally going to do 31 horror reviews like I did last year, where I just reviewed a different horror film every day, not a particular series or anything. However, this time I may just do one randomly throughout any time of the year if I see a horror film and really like it and think I need to talk about it. I have one final series to do before my massive purge of reviews come in October. The reviews will hopefully start on September 22nd. I'll try my hardest to get them on time, but I apologise in advance if they are late. So come back on Monday for the first of my Phantasm reviews.